you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Snap Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College, Dabigo Road. GMS Snap Bingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.
Welcome to Second Take with IDK. It's a beautiful day here in the heart of Kampala, Uganda. I hope it is a beautiful day where you are. Hello, Isma.
Hello, Mebo. Glad to be here.
Isma, I'm not happy. I'm not happy because when I see all these people, World Cup talking and Infantino boasting, I'm like, is he thinking about the Congolese? Is he thinking about the journalists from East Africa? I know one of our colleagues, Clive, I think he's in Tanzania, or he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's in Tanzania in quarantine.
Does Infantino, is he? And it just makes me think that, you know, as they say, the world is going on, but some people's livelihoods are very disrupted. And while we're all happy about the World Cup, some people's livelihoods are very disrupted by this Ebola ban. And I'm thinking also of this Patrice Lumumba guy. I've just forgotten his name. The one who stands up. And people were, you know, rooting for him to get a visa. I don't know if he managed to get a visa. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Because I don't see anyone fighting for Congo at the World Cup.
The national team itself, which is the most important ingredient of the Congolese, is I think in Belgium.
They've been there for some time.
They've been in Belgium in quarantine, where they've had a chance to play their games, and then they'll be tested, then they can go to the US. But I don't think it's a problem for FIFA. I think it's a problem for health authorities and governments of different countries. To an extent, I'm one of those who thinks the world should not have visas.
I know.
I think it's demeaning to humanity that there is borders, then there is a basic book where someone picks a stamp and says rejected, and that determines where you'll sleep or go. I totally disagree with that world order, but it's a system that we are facing. I also do not like the fact that these countries, especially Congo and Uganda, have really, I'd call it advertised Ebola as something that, yes, it's there, and the fatalities are there.
So far it's been one, and people have been discharged.
In Uganda, yes, but the way it's sold, sometimes you almost fear for lockdown. I think there's a lot of fear. And sometimes I want to blame the people who run the health systems across the world. Sometimes they speak and create a sense of fear that sometimes sounds like it's a money minting machine. Yeah, pandemic sometimes can sound like a money minting machine. So hopefully it's not that. Yeah, but it's very unfortunate for Congo and the journalists like Clive. And at least from what I've seen, from what the conversation that Clive has shared, he's also not allowed to get onto a flight from Dar es Salaam to America. He has to come back and board that flight from Entebbe. You must board the flight from the country where your passport is issued. So they talk about East African community and one border, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, unless he was in a connecting flight.
That doesn't make
and
any
he goes
sense.
to Dar es Salaam and he comes from Entebbe and it's a connecting flight. But if his origin, the first time he steps onto a flight to the US is Dar es Salaam or Arusha, he cannot. He has to come back to Entebbe, and that has to be his place of origin. So there's an extra cost in there.
You have said you don't blame FIFA, but
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with you because FIFA came to the defense of Iran. They said, you know, Iran will play in the US, on US soil. Even when someone said that, you know, have Italy, I know it was, okay, it wasn't very serious, have Italy replace Iran. I'm thinking Congo has a lot of money. There are fans who would be traveling. I think Infantino with his, he could call Trump.
No, he doesn't have control over funds. And actually, he cannot, even with
because
Iran.
This is a country.
Even with Iran, for example, the Iran FA president will not be in the US because the US claim is part of the Revolutionary Guard. And US have the right to deny any Iranian player visa if he's been selected, even if he's been selected. And there, Infantino cannot do anything because FIFA cannot determine who gets a visa to which country.
But they can, just as how people were advocating like Qatar in 2022, they were saying Qatar has a very bad record against human rights, and the FIFA at the time was saying, prove yourself that you don't have that bad record against human rights. But anyway, enough about that.
But for me, this is entirely about visas of entry. The Iran FA president will not be at the World Cup, and several officials from Iran FA, because the US has blacklisted them as members of a Revolutionary Guard. And if any of those players is accused by the US of anything, Infantino cannot do anything. If any of the fans from Congo think they must be there, and they have a big diaspora community too, from Europe and even in Canada, if they think they have to be at the World Cup, they have to quarantine. They have to travel to Belgium or somewhere in Europe or France and get into quarantine, and then they are cleared, and then they can go into the US. I don't think FIFA in that case have the power to determine US immigration laws. We have our own immigration mess here this week with the ministers and US citizenship. Yeah, and I've looked at some
renouncing, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I would renounce, but
one of the things that I was found very funny, many Ugandans, and this I say with authority, away from people who are doing well in this country, would gladly renounce their citizenship if they were given a US or Canadian passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, many Ugandans would,
yes.
Those who are, especially those who are hustling. Now, at the top of the society pyramid, yeah, people are renouncing citizenship of Canada and the US to get Uganda.
And some of them we wouldn't even have known if it wasn't, because it was, I think, Dr. Lawrence Muganga, who was the most prolific or most highly profiled, but the others renounced, and I'm like, wow. Anyway, I really wish Congo goes very, very far because of what is against them. But let's start talking about the World Cup.
We'll talk about Congo and the African teams in the next episode of the World of this.
Yeah, I want us to start with Spain. Have you heard of the curse of winning back-to-back?
At least Spain are not trying to win back-to-back. They only won the Euros. The last World Cup was won by Argentina.
Sorry, I meant Argentina.
Yeah, but you want to start with Spain or with Argentina?
Argentina.
Yeah, the champions, yes.
And if they haven't also, I saw them land in I don't know if was it Georgia or Atlanta. I saw them land anyway. And I saw Messi, and I thought, are they still relying on him too much? But anyway, let's start with Argentina and the curse of winning back-to-back.
Not many teams have been able to do it, and that emphasizes how difficult it is to win the World Cup back-to-back. Brazil did it in 58 and 62, so did Italy in the 1930s, 34 and 38. And the World Cup started in 1930. Uruguay won the first edition, and then Italy won the next two before the Second World War started, and there wasn't a World Cup in 1942. So it's that difficult, to the extent that the closest the team has gone to doing a back-to-back besides Brazil in 62 is Argentina. When they won the World Cup in 86, they played and got to the final in 1990, beat the hosts actually, Italy, in the semi-final, and then lost that very rough final to Germany, where the Germans decided that Diego Armando Maradona would not kick anything on that day. So it's going to be very, very difficult for Argentina to repeat. But the one thing you cannot fault them for is stability. Since Lionel Scaloni took over the job, he's had a core group of players, and most of those players are returning for another World Cup. So maybe Argentine players know each other like the back of the hand. Yeah, one of them can tell where another is standing without even looking, because they've been part of a team that won the Copa America before they won the World Cup, and they've stayed together. It's been the same group consistently, selected for a period of about you could say about 6 years, the same players. However, while you talk about the stability, the issue mentioned with Lionel Messi, how much can they rely on him? I thought in Qatar, Argentina got away with relying on Messi for a simple way that there are 10 warriors and then Messi, where Messi would stand in one position, everyone fights for the ball, they get to the final third, he comes alive, they give him the ball, he beats a player or two, scores or passes, or of course he always makes the right decision. Then after he releases the ball, he walks, and then the other 10 have to chase the ball for him. I don't know how long Argentina can play the same way. With the dependency, how much Messi, yes, he still has that killer pass, but I don't think he still has the ability to go around players, because the game is a lot more physical, and it's always been, of course, for him ever since he came through the La Masia. Opposition defenders have had to go at him, and how much of the players that are closest to him are going to be fighting to win possession and hand it to him. However, one of the things that Scaloni has done, I think all of us lost the right to criticize him, even us who support Argentina, that having waited to win the World Cup for the first time since 1986, then Scaloni goes and delivers the title. We lost the right to criticize, I think, every decision he takes. That at this point, Scaloni is right. If he's not right, refer to point A. Scaloni is right. I think he's in that situation where Argentina have also earned the right to fail. Yeah? You live a lifetime and you hope for your national team to play one World Cup, or even to win World Cup. One World Cup, and Scaloni delivered that. But if there's going to be anything besides Messi, for me, there are ingredients of that team that still remain very strong to help Argentina maybe get over the line. And most importantly for me is Julian Alvarez, the Atletico Madrid striker. I think he's got to take the ball take the ball by the horn. Yeah, he's got to be the next big star of his team. He's playing right at the top. He has the ability in terms of goals, not just the free kick, because the free kick these days has become very lethal. It's become part of his arsenal, and it's very hard to stop him. If they and balls around the penalty area, then it's going to be very difficult to stop him. But for me, it's besides Julian Alvarez, who else is going to put their hands up? That's where players like Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea have to come into play. That's where players like Nico Paz, who has had a brilliant season at Como, has to come into his element. And all the other guys, Lautaro Martinez and company, have to come in their element. If Messi is not doing the work, who else is going to do it? Because for me, that's going to be the decisive factor. None of us does not know or does not understand that Messi is old in a football sense, and he has slowed down significantly. All of us also know he retains the ability to play the pass and to take the right decision, but no longer possesses the speed to go around players like he used to do many years ago.
Do you know the average age of the Argentine team is 29?
They could be one of the oldest teams at the World Cup.
Yeah.
And that also counts for experience, because I'm one of those who thinks that teams with the most experience have a bigger chance than those without.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to Spain now. They can see from their squad the heavy reliance on Barcelona, but Lamine Yamal, how fit is he?
Not very fit. We have not had a chance to watch him in very many weeks, especially in the La Roja jersey, because of the injuries had. Luckily for him, his Barcelona side had enough to win the league. Real Madrid had the self-destruct button very close to themselves, that they did not need Yamal at the end of the season for them to be able to deliver that league title. And I actually thought you're going to start with a curse, because when Spain won the World Cup in 2010 and they showed up in 2014, the first time we watched them, they lost 5-0 to Netherlands in that opening game in Brazil. And they never recovered from it, and they were knocked out in the group stage. And thereafter, every superseding champion had been knocked out, because remember,
even France,
France too, you go back to 98. Okay, Brazil went much further in 2006 before they were knocked out by France. Then there was Italy when they won 2006. After that, they couldn't make it out of the group stages, 2010, 2014. and then now they cannot qualify for a tournament. So I thought I was going to start with that in terms of the cast. However, Spain, I think, come into this tournament as favorites, number one favorites, besides even Argentina, who are defending champions. Their coach, De La Fuente, who has coached this side from under 19, under 21 and the senior team, has a rapport that has enabled him build a synergy within the team that supersedes even the stars. When they won the last Euros, all of us were amazed and in awe about the ability of the two wingers, Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. But you cannot say that's all that won them the Euros. I think the strength of the team was also very, very important, because they won that Euros with Alvaro Morata as a centre forward. And his ability has always been questioned because he doesn't score goals in a glut. So Spain going to another tournament where, yes, Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams are going to be very critical to how they perform. But I don't think they're the only ones who are going to deliver the success, especially knowing that neither of them has been fit for most of the season. Yeah, Nico Williams has been out injured much longer. Yamal has been out injured for the latter part of the season. But both, at least the coach has said that both should be fit to start. So that's why I want to look at what else can they do well.
Midfield,
Yeah.
isn't it one of the best?
Yeah.
Pedri and
Pedri and Gavi, and
yeah.
then Rodri with the experience that he has. And the ability of Pedri to win you a game when you need that one goal or one pass or one tackle. I think he has that ability. And of course you have Fabian Ruiz, who we've seen at PSG, and is one of the key players to that PSG side in terms of stability and how they transit without the ball.
Yeah.
And like we saw the other season when he scored that goal against Arsenal, he can also come up with the goods in an attacking sense at some point in the game. So there is many other areas of that team that I think La Fuente will be thinking will be important where they end up. I also think their fullbacks are not very bad. Cucurella and Marco Llorente, who plays in the same position at Atletico Madrid. Then I think their goalkeeping, if they choose to play David Raya, no one would be complaining. Of course, the first choice for most of the time in the recent past has been the Bilbao number one, Unai Simon. And if they play Unai Simon, you wouldn't question, because there's been a hierarchy that plays him there. But Raya has been arguably the best goalkeeper in the world in the recent past. And if they chose him to play in that position, there wouldn't be too many qualms. But for me, if they are to go very far in the tournament, I think the midfielders, Gavi, Alex Baina, Pedri, Fabian Ruiz, Rodri, and then Zubimendi have to be at the top of their game. I do not think Nico Williams and Yamal will be at the peak of their powers, because physically they are not at the same level they were when they won the last Euros.
Okay, let's go to France. Didier Deschamps, is this his last dance?
Yes, it is. He's going to walk away after the conclusion of the World Cup, and all reports in France indicate that Zinedine Zidane will take the job. The French Football Federation has not announced the move yet, that Zidane will take over, but at least everyone is aware that Didier Deschamps is going to walk away. And what a story if he wins a second World Cup. Not many coaches have been able to do that. He won the World Cup first as a player and was captain in 1998 when they won under Amy Jacquet, and they won the World Cup in 2018. They could have gone even a step further. They got to a final in 2022 and even went into a penalty shootout with Argentina, coming from 3-1 down, thanks to that hat-trick from Kylian Mbappe. One of the things that when you talk about stability as a strength for Argentina, you've got to think about France as the other most stable side. One, in terms of the coaching. Two, the playing staff never changes much. To the reason that Didier Deschamps has created the kind of hierarchy that you almost know who the next player is. Yeah, that he does not change a lot of what the strength of his side is. And he's carried some of the things that he learned either when he was a player from Amy Jacquet, and of course his years as a player at Juventus and at the top of the game in France, and some of the things he's done with his teams as a coach. His teams normally have a very solid foundation defensively. We saw it in his time at Monaco, that Monaco team that got to the Champions League final in 2004, but also it had a lot of freedom going forward with Patrice Evra and Jerome Rota and all these, Dado Prost and all these other players. And the French team has the same ingredients. You have stability in the back line, where the players have developed over a period of time. But perhaps a major difference for him is that he has so much attacking talent that he has to build the team starting from the front and not the back like it's been. When you have Michael Olise, you have Ousmane Dembele, Ryan Cherki, Kylian Mbappe, the captain. There is no other way than to start to think you can blow away teams before you think about how you'll defend. Sometimes it will be easier for France because of the talent they have in that area to win games 4-2 than to win games by 1-0. Because hardly teams are, there are few teams that are blessed with a perfect balance, yeah, defensively and in attack. And France do not have the same kind of balance, I think, for me, defensively. Maybe the questions that they are going to face are going to be, who does he choose besides Mbappe and Dembele, who for me are the starters? Conventional wisdom suggests that Michael Olise starts the tournament, yeah, because of how good he's been at Bayern Munich on the right wing. Then you start to think about where does Ryan Cherki come in. Then you have to find roles for Cherki, for Marcus Thuram, for Jean-Philippe Mateta and all the other guys. And then you have to start with that, you also have the stability that I spoke about. And I'm going to use it a lot today, stability, and I made it sound like stable stability, yeah, to Bonga Nawe, yeah, that line in the song. Then you have Chouameni and N'Golo Kante and Adrien Rabiot, who have to cover that backline, whichever two of those he chooses. That, for me, the backline starts with William Saliba. And whoever else he chooses to partner with him, who at this stage will be Dayoto Upamecano, or Ibrahim Konate, or Lacra, the guy who's playing at Crystal Palace. They are very, very exciting, I think, especially going forward. I think they'll have issues defensively. And that is not something you can say of many French teams. Many French teams defensively are very good. Even their team that won the World Cup in '98, yeah, you could not question Lilian Thuram, Laurent Blanc, Marcel Desailly and Leboeuf as the support. Then you have Christian Karembo and Didier Deschamps as the cover players. Even if you move away from that and come to 2018, still you'd think defensively they were very solid. And then you had N'Golo Kante, yeah, at the peak of his powers at the time in that midfield. Then you had Paul Pogba in that midfield, yeah. So I think Didier Deschamps has to alter his approach. First of all, France are not very entertaining, yeah. They have never been. They've never been. Okay, if you found them entertaining, then you must have watched them in the 80s when they had Michel Platini. That team was very good. The one that won, I think, the Euros in '84 and then competed again in '88. I think he has to change a bit of his approach because the strength is at the front and not at the back, like it's always been.
Okay, let's go to England now, and maybe you can tell us a bit about what's happening in Thomas Tuchel's brain. Phil Foden, Maguire not included, and you have Rogers. What's his name? This guy from Aston Villa. Yes.
Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers has been a key part of all the 50-plus players that Thomas Tuchel has selected. If I think we went in terms of minutes, we wouldn't be too far away from Harry Kane in terms of the minutes played. While there's been a conversation of the players that Thomas Tuchel has left behind, and those who dominate this debate are largely Maguire, Cole Palmer, and Phil Foden. I cannot really make a case for Phil Foden and Cole Palmer. I don't think they've been very good. And there's always been a conversation in England just selecting the stars like they did in that era of Gerrard, Scholes and Lampard. And they also had Ashley Cole, Sol Campbell, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville. That team, Michael Owen, Wayne Rooney. Yeah, and they could not go on and win. Of course, there was also David Beckham.
I remember them leaving Darren Bent.
He wasn't a star. To the level of the guys, of the players I've mentioned. For long, the debate in England has been, we select the stars but not have a team. What Tuchel has done, he's created a team and not stars. and I think they've got to live with it. However, in the midst of all the things that they've done and they've debated selection, England will only do well, and I can repeat that 100 times. England will only do well if Harry Kane has a great tournament. Currently, most of their players who are the composition of that team are not playing well at their clubs. We've seen Jude Bellingham with the kind of season he's had at Real Madrid. We've seen Marcus Rashford. Yes, he has been a contributor with Barcelona, hit double figures in the league, but he's still not the Marcus Rashford when he first broke through. The one who would go at defenses and you're going to again planning what you're going to do with Marcus Rashford. But the one player who is in form,
Harry Kane,
and has learned how to vary his game, because these days he's not just a goal scorer. He'll drop deep, he'll play the final pass, he'll get players involved. So Thomas Tuchel has to design a system or a plan or everything that he thinks about the game of football, and he has to think that the team has to work for and around Harry Kane for England to succeed. And there's no shame in doing that. There are teams that have done that. There's teams, if you go back in the past, when Brazil won the World Cup in 1962 and 1970, they designed things to work for Pele. Maradona won the World Cup because Argentina played for him in 86. And Argentina have done that again with Messi. And you could go on and on. There is so many teams that, yes, there's teams that have won the World Cup, like Germany, like France, like Spain when they won in 2010, who have worked with a system that allows all players to thrive within their abilities. Now this England side, away from the one they had under Gareth Southgate, has to work for Harry Kane. If Harry Kane prospers, England will do very well. If he fails, if he fails, England is going to fail. And that's not to say the Sakas and Rashford and Gordon and Bellingham do not have abilities, but teams for me succeed when you allow your best player to bring his best attributes to the game. And in this case, Thomas Tuchel, everything has to work for and in Harry Kane. I can repeat that in sleep, at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner.
Okay, you've talked about stable teams. I think the Germans also have a very stable team. They're fairly stable.
I think it's a team also, you can call it stable because I think there's so many young players in there. I want to look at stability in the sense that you have players who have 50 caps plus and are played together repeatedly. That's what the teams I mentioned, that's what Argentina have. That's what France have. You have a core group of players who have appearances that played together for a very long time. Now the German team has been in transition. Remember, they have not made it past the group stage for the last two editions of the World Cup, 2018 and 2022 in Qatar, where they were knocked out by Japan in the group stages. So the challenge for the German coach Julian Nagelsmann is, I think, to summon the old things about a scary German side, because all the German sides you and I watched growing up, yes, they had stars, but none of us would say that this is by far the best German player. Something you could say about Argentina, or you could say about France. What worked for Germany was always the team ethic, the togetherness, that when you watch Germany, you knew that while they had Oliver Kahn in goal, they also had Michel Ballack. They also had Bastian Schweinsteiger. They also had Miroslav Klose. They also had Thomas Müller. They had so many weapons in that side that presently this German side may not have, because there's so many players who are just finding their element in football. For example, their best two players today would be Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz. The two of them. But even they should be what? Under 24? Or they should be 22. Like Via should be 22 and then Musiala should be 23. Or they're right around that age. So they're also still finding their feet in international football. So the things that have worked for Germany before, the team ethic, I think has to come in for Julian Nagelsmann, because they are very short on quality. Many of our viewers here will struggle to mention 8 German players, but in the past, you and I would be able to mention that easily. And not that they were excellent footballers, but at least we had seen how excellent they had been for their clubs. Now, this German side do not have that. So maybe it's a bit of surprise, maybe it's another element of growth. While many fans would be thinking, Germany in the World Cup and only Brazil has one more, they have to be competing. I think the people who think for the game in Germany are very much aware of where they are currently, that they have to build a team again. There is a famous story of the German FA, the DFB, sitting down and saying, here is where we fall short as a team. Let's build a plan of how we get our players back to the level where they can win the World Cup. Because they were humbled. They were beaten 3-0 by a Croatia side that they never thought would be able to compete with Germany at the time. So they went back and built. And that's how the players that eventually won the World Cup in 2014 were built over a 15-year period. That's how they eventually go back and create the kind of talent that we saw with Mario Götze, with Mesut Ozil, with Bastian Schweinsteiger and all these players that eventually delivered the World Cup in 2014. I think right now, having not made it out of the group stage of the last 2 editions, the Germans should be very aware of where they are and the abilities of this team. So they should go back to that old German machine that when things happen, no one is surprised because the machine has been designed to deliver some kind of result. And I think they're in that kind of situation currently.
Okay. Let's talk about Brazil. Shall we see some Italian magic from Ancelotti? I was reading that he, kind of changed the samba type of football for a more pragmatic type of football.
They've got to be very pragmatic. Brazil is the last of the dinosaurs who did not buy into the changes in football. For a very long time, Brazil relied on the talent, and they had it in plenty. You go back to Pele, 58, through all those generations, Socrates, Zico, and then you come closer to the 90s, you have Bebeto, you have Ronaldo da Lima, you have Cafu, Roberto Carlos, and all these players. One of the things that worked for Brazil is that their natural talent was always better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Now, those players were groomed and lectured and learnt their football in Brazilian academies. Flamengo, Fluminense, Cruzeiro, and all these other teams, Vasco da Gama and Santos. Now, because of the money, the world has denied Brazil that conveyor belt that they used to have. What they've had to do is that their players are leaving very young. Ronaldo, for example, Ronaldo had left Brazil at 17 and went to PSV, where eventually developed into the most lethal striker that I know, the best number 9 I ever watched. Now their players are leaving younger. Estevao, we saw with Robinho, and all these other Brazilian players now live much younger. Neymar too. He by 17, was playing for Santos, but before he knew it, he was in Europe. So they have more of a European education than they did when they had a Brazilian football education in the past. So it's only fair that now they've hired a European manager, because for a very long time they'll still hire Brazilian managers, the Tites, what's the other guy, Dorado, or the times when they were hiring Scolari and all, yet the players have a totally different education from what these coaches are accustomed to coaching the Brazilian league. So if they are going to perform well in this tournament, Carlo Ancelotti has to take what you described as a pragmatic approach. Play the kind of football that suits these players whose education is largely European. And in that area, he also must have discovered already that they are short of some of the things that they used to do well. All the Brazilian teams we watched in the past had very good fullbacks. You look at, even before Cafu, there were guys who played in that area in right back. There was one I think was called Jorginho in the past. And there was a Roberto who played in that position, not the one we eventually watched at Bayern Munich, the one who was playing on the left side. And then we knew Carlos, we knew Marcelo. And for a fleeting moment, there was also Cicinho who played at right back after Cafu had retired from the team. Now they are short in that area. And for me, that is a new Brazil. To think that Brazil do not have scary fullbacks is a very new thing. None of us has known it for a generation. Then Ancelotti also made a selection that many of us would not have picked earlier, the one of picking Neymar to go to the World Cup. He had been injured. He's not been playing well for Santos. Yes, I think.
Birthday parties.
Yeah, then he's fighting a fan and all these kind of things that have been around Neymar over the past 1.5 years since he returned to Brazil. Oh, you could stretch it and go back from the time when he joined PSG. All these challenges with this game. But Ancelotti understands that there's something about Brazilian players that Neymar is. That moment of ingenuity. Neymar could still have that in his armor, but he does not have the ability that he used to have in the past. So he's chosen him, albeit not thinking that he's going to be a starter. Because from what we've seen over the games that they played in the qualifiers and the friendlies, at least they've been hell-bent on playing Vinicius and Rafinha, and Thiago plays at Brentford, and Matheus Cunha. I don't think it changes that. He breaks it entirely for Neymar, but Neymar becomes a very good option to that attacking line for Brazil. Maybe for Brazil also it helps that they do not have the kind of expectations that they used to. You and I would know that going into 94, 98, 2002, 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, for the past 8 World Cups that Brazil have only won one, the tournament starts with everyone saying Brazil are going to win it. And after they not win, it's a failure. They're in a situation where perhaps no one is saying Brazil are going to win the World Cup. But if they adopt and maintain the pragmatic approach, this could be actually the renaissance that all of us have been waiting to see, that this could be the start of the renaissance with a coach who is proven and does not necessarily have Brazilian blood.
Yeah. Well, we have 104 games. And we'll be talking about World Cup from now till, I don't know, for the next
and remember, all these games on DSTV and Go TV. They are our partners. Go renew your subscription and you're going to pay 15,000 shillings. 15,000 shillings to be able to watch the World Cup in the comfort of your sitting room, of your muzigo, of whatever. On your phone if you stay in your one-room house. 15,000 shillings should be sufficient for you to watch all the 104 games of the World Cup. And there's going to be more. There's a lot of content. And then, because of the Southern and North American times, the World Cup games are going to be starting after dusk. And they'll go until morning. So it's only fair that you're not moving around the entire night, that you watch your games. Maybe you could watch a few with your friends up to 11 and midnight, then go home and the other. For example, Brazil's first game, I think, starts at 1 a.m. Yeah? And this World Cup is also going to have 3 opening ceremonies. We'll probably break down those in the next episode.
But I think Mexico will have the best.
Why?
With Shakira.
She's going to perform in one in Mexico, and Burna Boy will also be in Mexico. She'll also do the halftime show at the World Cup final. Yeah, the World Cup final. Yeah, that halftime show that FIFA is really planning to squeeze into 15 minutes, the same way the NFL does at the Super Bowl.
This is the first time,
because they tried it at the FIFA Club World Cup, and it exceeded the 15 minutes, which is the regulation time for that halftime break. So they are making tweaks to ensure that it fits into.
I wonder how they used more minutes.
Yeah.
I must say, for the Champions League final in Budapest, I was blown away, and I'm
by
sure
the opening ceremony.
Not really, but the logistics. Of getting, like, for instance, that grand piano on and off within record time, and of course that group that performed, the dancers, the stage is set, and then
what is the name of that band?
I don't know. Must be
it's called
English,
The Killers.
The Killers. But how you get on, and I'm sure there's a whole science to get the pitch ready in like
now
5 minutes or less.
I like that Mabel got to learn this, because I used to be amazed by watching the Super Bowl halftime show, and fits into that time. So I went behind the scenes a few years ago. Yeah, and watched how they do it. It's
I
all
should
this
Google that.
stage is driven in on a trailer, everything. Yeah.
But nothing goes wrong.
Yeah.
Like, so when you say 15 minutes, I'm like, but those guys, how much longer did it exceed?
I think by 8 minutes. I think the halftime at the FIFA Club World Cup final between PSG and Chelsea was 23 minutes, if I remember correctly.
But they must have practiced, and
yeah,
I don't know what went wrong there.
I don't think initially it wasn't part of the plan. But when the FIFA Club World Cup was then taken to America, and then it squeezed into the plan, I think close to the start of the tournament.
Yeah.
Which is something now FIFA have planned for like a year.
Yeah.
Now in this case for that halftime show at the World Cup final. Yeah. Now they've taken a bit of time to ensure that it does not eat away the rest of the other planning around the game, because for us who have our X's and O, yeah, we know the halftime is 15 minutes. But also if you notice in Budapest, I think the Champions League final started a minute late.
It could have. I was just so excited.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Should have started at 7:01.
Okay, let's talk about the Spurs, the New York Knicks and the Spurs. Game 1 down.
Yeah, game 1 down, won by the New York Knicks by 10 points. They had to come from 14 points down in the second half. And this is the New York Knicks' 12th successive playoff victory. Remember, they've swept their last two series against the Philadelphia 76ers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then if you go back to their first round series, they had won 11. Now they've won 12 in a row. So the San Antonio Spurs, if they thought this was going to be a walkover, which they wouldn't have, now the real business, they have to wake up. They're game down by the time we've done this show. So game 2 Saturday morning, which is 3:30 a.m. Victor Wembanyama did not have a very good performance in that first game. He has to show up, and all the other guys, Sheldon Castle. I thought their best player, the San Antonio Spurs, was Dylan Harper, who came off a bench, and he's only 20, he's a rookie. I've always argued that he has a head start on the rest of the league because his father has won the NBA on 5 occasions. He won with the Spurs and then won with the Lakers. He's a former guard. Yeah, he has 5 rings. And then his mother is a coach of basketball, I think, in a high school or college in the US system. So he has a head start on the rest of the league. That's why at 20, he's not even scared of the occasion.
Yeah.
He was so good in game 1 that you would have argued he was their best player. But if they're going to go forward and tie the series and eventually put Knicks on the back foot, Victor Wembanyama must play much better than he did in the first game. He has to go at that Knicks interior, where I thought Karl Anthony Towns too was brilliant, and the manner in which they threw several bodies at the 7'1" alien, 7'4" alien, is that they did not give him the same kind of person to defend him on multiple plays. They kept on switching, and Victor had to find several plays to beat the same player, different players, and they will continue to do the same. So he has to find solutions. That's what great players do. And okay, he's already going to be a great player. He's only 22, and they are going to be here for some time. And Spurs have a very good team. You talk about average age when you mentioned Argentina.
Yeah.
Spurs' average age should be 25, and they should be the youngest. And that 25 is pushed because you have a De'Aaron Fox, who played previously at the Sacramento Kings. I think he's 32 now. And then you have a Keldon Johnson. But you have all these players whose experience in the league is between rookie year and 4th year in the NBA. Yeah, so, but it should be a very interesting series. But where it's headed, if the Knicks were to win their first title in 53 years, their first final in 27 years, what a story Knicks will have written. Definitely. What a story.
Has Trump attended any? Or
he will attend game 3 on Sunday night into Monday morning.
Okay.
He says he'll attend game 3 at the Madison Square Garden, where the New York Knicks will be the home side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Roland Garros. There's going to be a semi-final, the first, I think, of 2 Italians, whose names I know. I'm a tennis fan, but even with the women.
And they could have been more Italians because, Berrettini walked out of his quarter-final game through injury.
Yeah.
But I think because when we come back, when we do our next episode, at least the French Open will be done, so we'll have a chance to talk about that part. Yeah. Because by the time we are doing this, the semi-finals are being played, so not much you can discuss around the men's draw, where I really hope Alexander Zverev does
his
win.
His first Grand Slam?
Yeah.
I was reading, I was like, but he's been around.
Yeah, he's been around. Yeah. He's played 3 Grand Slam finals and 7 semi-finals, and not delivered on any. Yeah, he lost the 2024 French Open final. The German, he's quite tall. I think he's about 6'6".
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully by the time we come back on Monday, I'll be making a case for why Zverev deserved to win or why he failed again. But at least for the women's draw,
yeah,
we are also going to have a new Grand Slam winner. I saw the 2 ladies. Andreeva is one,
yeah.
Mika Andreeva, playing against the qualifier. Shwalinka. Yeah, I hope. I've been struggling with there's been so many girls from Eastern Europe who have done well in this tournament that all of us have to learn to read names that do not have many vowels. Yeah, because that's the one thing you'll find with Eastern Europe.
Those Russian,
yeah, those Russian and Ukrainian names. Actually, I've always said that I don't know why Russia and Ukraine are fighting. Their names are all hard. Anyway. So the qualifier is Maya Shwalinska. Yes, Shwalinska against Mira Andreeva. Mira Andreeva is a Russian teenager, and Shwalinska is Polish. She's called a qualifier because she does not fall in the bracket of players who go into the Grand Slams, because the Grand Slams only allow players of a certain ranking, and she's 114, so she had to play a qualifying tournament to get into the main draw. So
that would also be a story.
These 2 girls will be a story. Yeah. Whoever goes on and wins. From what I've watched, Chalinska's power is going to ask Mira Andreeva a bit of questions in that final. On Saturday should be at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Let's talk about rugby now.
It's a weekend of the semi-finals of the Rugby Premiership.
Yes.
And for some reason, there isn't going to be Cobs. Yeah? Cobs will not be part of the conversation. Remember, they were knocked out by the Impies. Arrogance won the day. So it's Impies against Buffaloes. That game is at the graveyard, like we call it in Makerere. No one is buried there except rugby players. When you're beaten, we call it a graveyard for that. So do not be afraid when you hear the graveyard and then you say, hey guys, I play rugby in a graveyard. No. The Makerere University rugby pitch is called the graveyard. So the games will be played there between Impies and Buffaloes. And shockingly, there is a Sunday game at Chadondo between Heathens and the Pirates. That game will be played on Sunday evening in the other semi-final. And this is a first leg, so there will be a return leg a week from now. That's it, I think, for the rugby. Would be a very good story if Impies were to make it there. They last won the league in the 90s, I think 1996. That team that was captained by the former national team star, Herbert Wafula, who has since passed on. I think was captain of that team that won the league for the Impies. So should be a lot of entertainment for everyone involved, and Makerere is a place to be on Saturday. I can imagine everyone within the Impi structure thinks they can beat Buffaloes on Saturday, and Buffaloes will think this is the draw they need to get to the final.
Okay, let's talk about news from the Uganda Cranes.
This week, at the start of the week, the Cranes hop onto a flight and they are bound for Morocco, where they are playing friendlies, and we're told they'll be playing against Tanzania and Madagascar. The games are supposed to be played in Marrakesh. They arrive, they do interviews, and the next communication is the friendlies have been cancelled. The initial communication said security. Then the next communication said, what was it about? Ebola. Yeah? Now the team is coming home. Remember, because of the Ebola pandemic in Congo, I don't want to call it a pandemic in Uganda. I'm always,
I feel your pain.
I'm as angry as the people I've seen, as Amos Wekesa and all these guys in tourism.
Your pain.
Yeah. The way some of these things are sold, I'm always very angry at them. But anyway, the Uganda Cranes will not be playing. Remember, Uganda was also hosting an under-18 Zone 5 basketball championship in Hoima. That was also called off. And it was moved to Egypt. And now Uganda cannot travel because they do not have the money. Because Egypt has not denied Ugandans from entering the country because of Ebola like other countries. So that's where we are. The Uganda Cranes are now bound for Kampala, which was never the plan. Sorry, it's good to play during the international window. Fufa has tried to do that consistently with this team, and that is now denied. And it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate for the team.
I think we need to have more sports people in government other than the sports department.
And more tourism people. I think we need to have more people who understand the value of perception. Yeah? The value of perception. That's why for some of us who have had the chance to travel repeatedly, it was very sad that even until the last few years you still travel and you're asked, where is Idi Amin? Yeah? That perception, we've not packaged this country to the level that we should. That's why I think we are 45 million Ugandans. I think 44,999 Ugandans have never seen an Ebola patient. But it's very easy to say there is Ebola in Uganda. Very unfortunate.
Ebola is contained, and I'm really praying.
And it's very containable. More than perhaps even COVID.
Exactly. It's not as contagious as COVID.
Yeah.
I wonder, does CDC not know this? That anyway.
People communicate on our behalf, I think, also let us down.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Fufa, they were supposed to have the extraordinary general meeting.
No news. We are wasting your data by discussing what Fufa discussed. They were supposed to sit and align their statutes with the new law. And they did, unanimously. Of the 88 delegates in the assembly, 71 were present. And there was no single dissenting voice from that meeting that was chaired by the Fufa president, Moses Magogo. From the video that we saw on Fufa TV, there was Moses Magogo, there was the CEO, Edgar Watson, there was the Vice President, Justus Mugisha, and then members of the EXCO, including Deo Mutabazi, who represents Beach Soccer on the EXCO. So, sometimes they say no news is good news. Yeah, in this case, Fufa would understand that. But also, controversy sells. There is no controversy for us to sell for Second Take with IDK.
And that's where we shall end it. Do take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend and enjoy. But we will have another episode before the
World Cup. Yeah, because next time we have to talk about Portugal. We have to talk about Netherlands. We have to talk about Uruguay. We have to talk about some dark horses. All of us will choose who we think can upset the odds. And then we must talk about the African teams.
10.
Who of these African teams is packaged or has the tools to do what Morocco did, or if not, what Senegal did, what Ghana did, what Cameroon did in 1990.
There you have it. Second Take with IDK. We shall see you next week. Share, like, and subscribe.
And remember, DSTV.
Yes, you watch the 104 games that will be played in Canada, the US, and Mexico. See you next time.
Are you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College Nabigo Road. GMS Bingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.